say they're great figures. Wish we had more, but we got some really, really talented artisans, and that is exactly what they are. Doing action figures, doing playsets, doing Lego. This community is just head to toe. I've seen plush. You've seen the plush. It's crazy. We're going to start. Bingo, Max, right here.
Sorry, I'm late. Am I late? Apparently late.
Just in time for dramatic entrance.
You were almost fired, Max.
From your free duties. Oh, I see, I forgot my own card. I'm a Martin. Alright, let's go see some fun stuff. We're going to start just going down, just talking with each creator about the process, what inspires them. We're going to just talk about what we want to see. This community can create a lot of things. But Elias, I actually met Elias. I met Elias online, and actually through a friend, Holly, in attendance right there. So I was like, do you know anyone making Galactic Starcruiser custom action figures? And I do know someone making Galactic Starcruiser action figures. And now I'm broke. But Elias, you made those three creations for us at the end. A Wani, a Captain Cuban, and a Gaia. While you're talking, I'm actually going to be taking those out of the display cases. Maybe they do look cool in cases, yes. But the craftsmanship on those ones in particular, you have to be able to see them in 360. Like, turn them around, it's Wani's braided hair in a 3 3/4 is absolutely mind-blowing. Gaia's cape, you have never seen detailing like this in a 3 3/4 inch scale action figure. It blows your mind away. So I'll be taking those out so everyone can, after the panel, walk by, take a peek. And the exhibitions, which they're going to be at, they're in case you can't touch them. But really just talk to us about your process and like what you do. This is a Wani.
Yes, it is.
And that's like proto-Wani.
Yeah, so I'll start you guys at the beginning of my process. I'm going to take you through how I made Wani from start to finish. So some of you might recognize my base figure there. It's a vintage collection Elias Fulton. And the first step in pretty much any project is preparing the figure for what it's about to become. So step one is I take out my Dremel and I completely shave away all the forms and details that I don't want. So like Elias Fulton's top, don't need it. Her sleeves, don't need it. Her belt tabard, don't need that either. So I just use razor blades, I use Dremels, by the way. Children who want to do this, have parent supervision. Some of these tools are dangerous and please be careful. I have cut myself before. You know, that's part of the game when you're a crafter, but yeah, if you're a child, please be careful. So after the figure is prepped, to prepare it for painting, a very common issue that a lot of artists have is paint rub at the joints. So this PVC kind of that little joint that the arm rotates on, the paint will come right off of it. The PVC doesn't really bind to the acrylic paint super well. So I'll use my Dremel and I'll just shave a little bit off the surface of that PVC joint, and that prevents like all paint rub. So if you want to prevent paint rub, do that. This is green stuff. It's made by a company called Titan. and it's what I sculpt with. There you can see I rolled out a very thin sheet of it, and that's what I use to construct like certain flat parts or like thin pieces. You know, it's almost like a waxy material when you're working with it.
It looks like an unblown up balloon. or something else. You were thinking it.
I didn't think of that until just now. Oh, okay. So this is how I braid your hair. There's really no way around braiding hairs than to sculpt every individual hair. It's tedious, but I think the final product is worth it.
How many would you say are on Wani? ballpark?
I remember counting when I made it. I think it was like 24 or like 26.
And again, this is 3 3/4 inch scale.
Yes. So each one of these hairs is probably like a little less than 1 millimeter in diameter. So, you know, you want to be very patient with that. Okay, so that flat piece of green stuff that you saw that I rolled out earlier is what I used to construct the cage for her skirt. Green stuff is a very soft material when you're working with it, so it's important that you have some kind of structure underneath it if you're going to build something like a skirt or armor that's like hanging in front, anything, you know, you want to build a supporting structure. So I wait for the material to be completely dry, and then I cut it into these ribbons, and then I use them to construct the form. Okay. So this little thing here, I built out of a little piece of Procreate, which is similar to green stuff. And I just rolled out a little thin, straight piece of it, and I glued toothpicks onto it to kind of create a form for what the cape was going to be. And when the green stuff was very soft, I just laid it over the toothpicks and used a wooden sculpting tool to kind of like groove it in between each toothpick. Keep your tools wet, by the way. Green stuff is very sticky. Okay, so once the sculpt was completed, I hit it with a base coat of paint, and there you can see the braid all finished, and that was like the finished paint job, and I'll reveal all of them together after that. But next, I want to talk about some of the tools that are very important to my craft. A longer orange 3D printer is what I use, and I think in the market of 3D printers, that's a fairly affordable model.
Ballpark that, what would you call
Like 300? It was about 300. But you know, for $300, it gives like really high resolution prints. It's really, you know, it's expanded my craft. I don't know where I'd be without it. Employee of the month right there. And these air tools here are super, super important when it comes to my resin casting. That specific wani head right there is actually a cast of one of my earlier sculpts at the head. I was very happy with it. I was like, I want to be able to remake this wani easily because she is my best-selling project. I've had to make her like 4 times now, which is a record at Custom to the Kid. Usually people ask me for new or different things, but people really love wani, and I get it. She's really cool. So what you're seeing there on the left, the glass lid, is a vacuum chamber. And I use that to degas my silicone when I make silicone molds. That navy blue tank up at the top with the orange coil on it, that is my pressure pot. And when I cure my molds and when I cure my casts, I put them in there and I cure them at around like 40, 50 PSI. And that helps to like shrink away any air bubbles or imperfections that are gonna like, form in your cast. And that little Boss stitch machine there, the yellow one, that's my air compressor. So that's what I hook the pressure pot up to, and that's what fills it with high pressure air. Be very careful when working with your pressure pot. It is high pressure air in there. You want to check your gasket around the edge to make sure you don't have any pressurized explosions. Please don't hurt yourselves. And that little blue one on the bottom is the vacuum pump, and that is what pulls the air out of the vacuum chamber.
Just to folks, one of the reasons we're doing this panel is to just inspire you. To say, you know, if you really want to get into this craft, here's some of the basic instructions on how to do it. And we're going to talk about a different, you know, variety of methods with which to do it. I mean, this is top tier, like custom craftsmanship. You got any tools. This is not something that is, people just think custom, you know, pound out a 3D printer. There's a lot of work that does go into create something like that.
And I'm really happy to like share all these tools with you because I really want to see the customizing community grow, and I really want to inspire you guys. So I guess I'll get a little bit into how I made Gaia. This is on the far left there. That is the digital sculpt that I did of Gaia's head, and I did that in a program called Blender. A lot of you may be familiar with it. I then printed it out on my long course 3D printer. And then I just hit it, that was when I hit it with like a basic coat of paint, and after that I detailed it more. I think up next you'll see...
You ready for this? Here we go.
based out her body in like all the basic paint colors, and I've started putting the dress together. I had to actually like make a pattern for it, like a tiny dress pattern, and I had to, you know, sew it, and I had to attach it to her. And thankfully, she's got like a kind of periwinkle colored ribbon that covers the edges. So that was really clutch for hiding my fabric edges.
But look at the detail on the back of the cape. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, it's this big, folks, and the details there.
I'd actually love to talk about that cape a little bit.
Do it.
I made it on a really beautiful blue satin fabric. Unfortunately, acrylic paint is not forgiving. If you make a mistake in acrylic paint on fabric, it will not come out. So I told myself, I'm gonna try to do this in one go. If I make a mistake, I'm gonna have to start from scratch, which is fine. You know, I'd rather have a perfect product and have to do it twice than to like only do it once and deliver something subpar. Thankfully, I was able to do it in one try.
All right, you ready for the big one? Here we go.
And this is all three of them finished.
Captain Keevan's hat comes off. And what's even more amazing, what blew me away, I was hoping you were going to be able to do that, is when you take the hat off, it's not like there's a groove in the head. It's like just perfectly goes on. And you can even hold the figure upside down.
You can shake it.
And the hat stays, and you take it off and you have no idea that it was sculpted to be anything. It's just the detail, the precision that you've got to hit. That's Lego level precision, and that's pretty good.
Can I tell you all the secret about that hat?
Yes.
I didn't really know what I was doing for the fitting. It just really worked the first time. And
Of course.
I felt very lucky.
What's funny is, did you actually use the Naboo Rebel Soldier, the Naboo Foot Soldier hat?
I did. The thing about that hat was that the original guy who was wearing it has like a skinnier head than she does. So what I did was I just like kind of shaved the sides of the hat a little bit, and then I just added a little bit of width to it. I sculpted that, and then I used a Dremel to kind of like hollow out the inside, and luckily enough, on my first go with the Dremel, it fit perfectly on her head.
That's one of the funner things that I do. I might do just head swaps and simple things. I thought I was doing really good when I like cut the hands off my Tusken Raider and turned them around so I could hold the stick above his head. I thought that was amazing.
Like, doing custom action figure modifications like that are nothing to sneeze at. That's how I started. You know, like we all start somewhere.
But here's some stuff you got coming up.
Oh yeah, I'd like to show you guys some things that haven't been posted yet, but I recently finished. I'm very excited to show you. So we've got an Imperial crosshair after he betrays the batch. Never forgive him.
Never.
And a little AZ.
Awesome.
Wow.
Folks, let's give it up for Elias. You got cards
Thank you so much.
If you're looking to possibly have Elias do some work for you, I recommend it.
Please take one of my cards, send me an email. I'm happy to like start the commission process with any of you.
And okay, we got to pass. Oh, you pass the mic down to Bob. Oh, there we go. Bob's got it.
I've got one.
But what's fun about this community is that it's across the board. Like I've seen plush that are astounding. I've seen figures, but let's talk about playsets, because to me, the original Kenner line had it right. The figures were the accessories, and it was a vehicle and playset line. And I think they've kind of lost their way on that a little bit, is that you got great figures nowadays, but not much to do with them. But that's where Bobb Collins from Cardboard Galaxy comes in. Bob, let's get. This is a fun picture. I might embarrass you with this one. There's young Bob. He's on his first builds.
Look at him doing his first build.
That was from the Star Wars convention in 2002, Star Wars Convention 2. That was the first convention I ever went to, and the big thing that sold me to go there was that Frank Diorio had said that he was going to be building a giant diorama of Tatooine, Mos Eisley there. So I said, I've never built a diorama before. This would be the coolest thing, and to learn it from a guy who is a genius at it. Even back in 2002, he was the standard of everything. So as soon as I walked in the doors of the convention, I found his room. I went in there. I said, let's build something. And he had me build a house. I, was able to just use my imagination, do whatever I wanted. And that picture is from his website back in 2002. I was the first person through the door. I was the first person building anything. That's my first diorama. I had never built anything before, and I was hooked. I was also, of course, I was a huge Star Wars fan. I've been a toy collector since I was a little kid. And walking around the show, it was fun, but the rest of the show wasn't anything like that diorama room to me. And I went back in there, and I'd already built a house, and that was it. And I said, well, what else can I do? And he was giving away a Docking Bay 94 at the end of the show that they needed to build this giant thing because he was building the whole city and a Millennium Falcon to put in it. He put me on the team that was building that. Like I said, I had never built anything before that weekend. And I got to learn firsthand with masters at it. And it was just the most wonderful thing. I went home from that, a changed person, and started building these displays. I would have bought any toy that Kenner or Hasbro put out of any of these displays or playsets. They just didn't. And I had that hole in my collection. I had all the figures, and I needed places for them. I didn't understand it at the time. Now that I've been doing it for a while, it's the characters in context is a big thing for me. And I've met a lot of other people that are like-minded. Putting them on a shelf is one thing, and owning the figure is one thing. But once you have a Death Star hallway behind them, then it makes sense in a way that the wood grain of a bookcase doesn't. So once I had the ability to start making these things, I started moving them.
And cardboard, at first blush, it's so reductive to what you're doing. Let's, folks, prepare to see some stuff that Bobb's done.
So yeah, that's the next project that I really tackled was, I wanted a Death Star playset that was modern, that wasn't the Kenner version, which was awesome and I loved as a kid so much, but I wanted something with more details. So I drew up plans, and I thought, this is going to be huge, this is going to be exciting, this is going to be amazing, and came up with 5 levels for it. Was building it out of foam core, was adapting it to, I don't know if you can tell in the pictures there, but there's an old Power of the Force 2 detention center playset that's actually incorporated into it. The
Stormtroopers all yellowed out from that one over time.
Yeah.
Figures are weird like that.
Actually, a little tip, if your stormtroopers are turning yellow, you can submerge them in hydrogen peroxide and it turns them white again.
Say, what? Advice from a professional. Get her out to the peroxide, please. All right, let's go see some other stuff that Bobb's done.
So yeah, after I built that, and a big part of building it for myself was I was blogging about it online on forums and stuff, and getting feedback from people who were looking, and a big part of the process was just going through that and figuring that out. And when I got to, this was about 2008, I decided that I was kind of done Star Wars collecting. I knew Hasbro was never going to finish, and I knew that it was on me to decide how many figures were going to be in my collection and what my collection was going to look like. Because if I just kept buying what they did, it would go forever. Here we are, 20 years later, and they are still going forever. But I made up a list, and once I had that list, I thought, well, how am I going to display my collection? And again, were somebody selling the displays, I would have bought displays. But nobody was, so I thought, well, I've got skills now, I can do this myself. So I turned my skills for making playsets and little dioramas to specific shelves to display the characters that I had. The ones that I have here on the picture are the Cantina shelf, which I wanted the booths and the bar So I did two layers of it and did the booths separate. In my mind, that was because the booths were all shot over in LA, while the bar itself was shot in London. I thought, okay, so that's a separate. That's a way to break that up. Also, we've got an Imperial display. All my Imperial figures were going to go in there, right in the center of it. The bounty hunters lined up. It was awesome. And then on top of that, we've got a little Cloud City scene that I put together for all the investment figures. We got Rebels up next to it. We've got the ones from Return of the Jedi would be on the bottom. The ones from Yavin would be up on top. And I did a Tatooine shelf. I did a Jabba shelf. I did all the shelves.
Well, let's look at something. Let's look behind the curtain and kind of start from this. This is where it begins.
This is why it's called Cardboard Galaxy.
Truth in advertising.
With the shelves, they were a big hit. Like I said, I was blogging about it online as I went, sharing it along with people. And the same thing with the big plastic Death Star. People loved it. People said, "Oh, make me one, make me one." I thought, this thing it took me 6 months to make. There's no way I can make you one. When it got to the shelves, it was more streamlined, and they were easier, and I was more experienced. I was able to do a few commissions on the shelves, and the bug was in my head at that point that people want these. I'm not the only one who doesn't have the playsets. Nobody has the playsets. Nobody has the displays that they want. So that's an option. Oh, and by that point, I had made money off of it, and that's a powerful tool for me. You put money in my hand, and I say, yeah, I want you to put more money in my hand. So in 2015, I had the opportunity. I was between work and for fun, really, for just something to do that day, I sat down and came up with a business plan of how would I go about selling a Death Star playset that I could make out of cardboard. And just to see if it was feasible, I went through everything. I went through all the numbers and crunched everything that I could, and it looked like it was going to be doable. So then I threw one together out of the cardboard. We had just gotten a big IKEA delivery, and I had all these cardboard boxes. So I started drawing templates on the cardboard boxes and cutting them out and figuring it out, and got to that cardboard one. It was feasible. It was workable. The problem was the printing. I hadn't really worked. I worked mostly in actual handmade stuff, and not so much with the printing. And knowing that I would have to print, I started learning Photoshop. I started working through it. It was a long, grueling process for me in the beginning. But I got about half of the Death Star drawn, and I said, it's been a couple months. I want to move forward with this thing. I have half the Death Star. Well, why don't I make a version like the Palatoy Death Star, which was cardboard and was a half circle? So I made one as a prototype, finished it up, put it online, and it sold within a day. It was I think 12 hours.
That really is so legit Palatoy. I mean, it's just a modern recreation of that beautiful design.
We all want one. Nobody in the United States got to buy a Palatoy Death Star.
Re-release it.
And in printing out that Death Star, I got to know what was going on at the print shop. I was in there all the time getting revisions, getting new pieces, and just talking to them and finding out what's available, what kind of card stocks are available, what can I do, what can I use? Because most of that was, again, cardboard with decals applied, and that's more expensive than just printing onto a cardboard sheet. So figured that out with them, and the next step became I can make little displays. It's an 11 by 17 cardboard sheet right at the Office Max down the street. So I figured that out, and that's what's up there now is the next step in Cardboard Galaxy. When I started selling it on eBay as Cardboard Galaxy, it was with those sets that are there. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I knew the Death Star was amazing, but I didn't know if the little pieces would do it. But they went really well. As a matter of fact, one of my very first customers is standing over here with the camera. His name is Brian Fulton, and he runs a website called Customs for the Kid. He's the dad of Elias here. He's the kid from Customs for the Kid.
I actually bought that Death Star too.
But do those fit in a ditch?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yep.
I mean, every collector knows the IKEA
perfect for those, yep, absolutely, that's up in there. He bought a bunch, and the next time I put a batch up, he bought a bunch of the new designs that I have, and I've been designing with the fear of selling. I didn't want to be a failure, so I didn't put them online, and then finally I put them online, and he sold a bunch, he bought a bunch more, and I reached out to him and I said, you know, I've got 16 more designs I haven't put up yet, and listed them. He said, yeah, give them all to me, and he put a glowing review up on his website. I was so fortunate and so lucky. He got so many more people to buy from me. I am really blessed and thankful. And it got me past that hump of, am I going to be able to do it? And from there, it went on, and we started selling some more stuff. The next big thing that happened was Hasbro started competing with me. They decided they were going to make playsets again. This was probably the first playset they'd made in 20 years. And people told me, hey, you know, it's great. And I looked at it and said, they didn't put a floor in there, and they have those empty archways, which are great, but if you're going to set it up as a display, what if you did this instead? So up there you see the before and the after of what it looks like when you buy it and what it looks like when you get the Cardboard Galaxy piece.
You made it way better.
And accessory packs are so on brand for vintage Star Wars.
Well, yeah. What sold it to people was the lights on the floor, the way that reflected. And that then, at that point, that became the fastest selling set that I'd ever done. So I said, okay, I need to keep up with what Hasbro's doing. They're not going to be competitors, they're going to be opportunities for me here.
Amen.
So the next thing that they came out with, one of them was a hallway from the Tanabe from the beginning of Star Wars. And I said, you know, they had doors on there again that opened up and nothing was behind it. So I made this set here that you could set up behind the doors. And when I first put it up online, I didn't have any of the pieces in it that makes it a cockpit. It was just the room. And when I put that picture of just the room online, somebody said, oh, that looks like the room from the new Starcruiser that's coming out. This was back in 2021. And I said, yeah, I don't see it. Okay, but that put a bug in my head. And that set sold so well that I said, well, I want to repeat that. I want to do that again. And somebody said it looked like the Starcruiser cabin. Maybe I could do the Starcruiser cabin as a room to go behind this door. So I got to design it, and I made a Starcruiser cabin. I never got to go, but I did a lot of research, and what I saw was there were rooms that also had a couch instead of just a bed, so I made both pieces, and you could interchange them. Since then, now there's a version of it that reverses, so that you can have the bed on the other wall, the couch on the other wall. And it sold okay. I remember there was a crazy customer who bought like 30 of them at a pop. What? And I was like, oh my God.
I thought that stock would last me forever with everyone that wanted one. I was just passing them out like candy. They were gone in like a day. You get a start.
So that put me on somebody's radar, and when they were coming up with a convention, they thought, boy, wouldn't it be great if Cardboard Galaxy did some exclusive sets for the convention based on the Starcruiser. We talked about it, and he asked me if I could do a bridge. I said, of course I can do a bridge. I hadn't really studied the bridge yet, so I didn't know what was going to be. There are a lot of accessories on that bridge, and that little captain's console in the middle was such a pain in the butt. But I don't take anything for granted. It was such a learning opportunity. It was such an opportunity to learn how to design something like that. And it worked out. And I think it looks great. I think it works fine. And I'm just so glad that I had that opportunity to do that.
That set really pushes the boundary of what I would expect to be possible out of a cardboard medium. I mean, let's talk about the center console really quick. The hyperspace console. I think your idea, your solution to that was brilliant. The way that the design was fantastic. Who here bought one from Bob? The rest of you is in the back there in a couple minutes. We'll get one.
You can only get them here, so.
Yes.
And we're only going to be there for another 2 hours or so.
Get on it.
If you want to have a playset, you got to jump on that.
But we said, well, being the Starcruiser community, we're a little extra over here, so one's not enough, let's go for 2.
So we also did the lounge as well. And that was a whole lot of fun looking at because there's a lot of detail in there. And even on the bridge, I wanted to make sure that every station was represented because every time you went to that, you were assigned to a certain spot. I didn't want to leave off the spot that you were at. That wouldn't be fun. This is about bringing home what you got to experience at the Starcruiser. So I made sure that all that was there. I tried to make sure that every place you could have gone, everything you could have done in the lounge was there. It was a priority to have the sabacc table. That was really cool to do.
That one was fun there's a phrase Kennerize, where you take something that's real and you kind of fudge it into Kenner proportions and design style. I mean, if you look at the original Millennium Falcon toy, it's so wildly out of proportion, it's ridiculous, but it looked right.
And it was so fun.
It was so fun. No kid cared. We didn't care that the dogs. It was amazing. But this one was fun, like the hydrominate. You can't really do those tanks in cardboard or in a plausible, affordable fashion that's replicatable. But your solution to kind of put those in the back so elegantly, you keep the detail, but you Kennerized it. And I thought that solution, when we got the prototype of that was delightful. And you can even see on the hollow sabacc table, when we got the picture, there's hands, every seat has got cards from the hollow sabacc. There, so have your character standing there playing card. Brilliant, brilliant design. So everyone, it's available here only, so get it. And then let's go down to the end of the table. Have you ever had a friend that you adored, and then you found out something completely ridiculously amazing about this person, like years after you met them? Well, Max, take it away.
I'll tell that story, sure. My name is Max. I have an Instagram called Last Max Studios. I am fortunate enough to work as a professional for a company called Real Robot, where I paint and make high-end licensed prop replicas and concept maquette replicas for Star Wars. So that is my professional job. I am a hobbyist when it comes to custom action figures. I have not yet sold one, but I really enjoy it, and it's interesting, it kind of came about similar to what Bob was talking about, where it was just, there was a figure that I really wanted that didn't exist, and so I decided I had to make it for myself. And this was a hobby before I kind of started, evolving horizontally to kind of do what I'm doing now. Evolving horizontally? It has implications that I did not intend.
This man is going to weird places.
But basically, yes, so I've known Martin for a few years now, and somehow it never came up that I make custom action figures. And we were at San Diego Comic-Con, and he was telling me about Elias, and he was telling me about Bob, and I said, wouldn't it be great if we had more of them? And he was like, yeah, and I said, well, I want to do that for you. So anyway, at the end of this quick presentation, you'll see the couple that I made for Martin that will be on display later. But I want to take you very quickly through a little bit of my process and how I got into this. Honestly, the tools are very similar to the ones that Elias went over. I don't use as many as the complex. I don't have a pressure pot. I don't do my own silicone casting. And I don't think I've ever made anything quite as elaborate as his Gaia or even his Wani. But nevertheless, the process is not entirely different. So actually, if you go back to Obi-Wan really quick. So Obi-Wan was the very first custom that I made. This was the one that I wanted to own, so I had to make it. So Mythos Obi-Wan was a sideshow statue that sort of envisioned where Obi-Wan might be between episode 3 and episode 4. There was a great statue, and I was like, I'm just going to make my own Black Series. So I work in 6-inch scale. I do sort of the equivalents to those Star Wars Black Series, which is easier, as I've learned, than doing 3 and 3/4. Anyway, we'll get to that. And so a lot of accessories and repaints and putting some wire in his cloak, and also I started to get into action figure photography, so throwing the background on there. So that's what got me into it. The next one, again, the deleted scene big Starcruiser. Like, why? Hasbro's never going to make that figure. I wanted it, and so I made it. And the way that, you know, one way to make custom figures is you sort of do almost the equivalent to kit bashing, where you take existing figures. So that's like, I think that is young Han Solo's jacket repainted, and Finn's torso with Han Solo legs, maybe, and a Darth Vader cape. And the head is something that I purchased from a shop. So at the time, the big way people were doing 6-inch customs was mold and cast, replicating often smaller 3 3/4 inch heads by doing an enlargement process through, honestly, I'm not even sure. I mean, it has to do with silicone molds and resin casting and figuring out how to actually enlarge through almost guesswork, I think. But, so that's the big Starcruiser that I made. Replicating the deleted scene. Let's go to the next one. So, similarly, this is a Sergeant Cephala figure from Rogue One. The torso and the head, again, is a mold, is a cast from a 3 3/4 inch enlarged to 6-inch scale. The other pieces are from Cassian Andor. I think the pelvis is from Admiral Akbar. I think the legs are also from Cassian Andor. And just, you know, paint all those pieces to look like they should. The next one, so this is where things started to get interesting in the customizing community, where 3D prints really started to take over and make anything possible. 3D printing, if you can dream it, you can make it. So there are a lot of vendors out there. I'm a member of a couple of patrons where they post monthly assets that you can download and print. This is the Great Mother Clotho from Ahsoka. They usually make these pieces with a recommended base figure. In this case, the base figure is Agatha Harkness from Marvel Legends. The pieces that you add on are the head and her shawl that go over the base body. The green fire, I think, was fodder, again, I think maybe from a Doctor Strange figure. And the only actual modification I did to the base figure is I sculpted a little lattice on her collar line out of some epoxy clay, which is very similar to the green stuff that Elias talked about. It's just kind of another way to achieve a similar result, but it has a different, like, you wouldn't want to do your big strips of dress.
I use epoxy clay sometimes as well. When they dry, they're just a little different.
It's brittle, it's not.
Epoxy clay, I would say it's comparable to almost like ceramic.
Yes.
When it dries.
Yeah, it's very hard.
It's got like almost like a stone.
Yeah, and the green stuff almost keeps a flexibility to it
It's
in a
almost
weird
like
way.
plastic.
Like you're almost like not sure it's ever dry.
Well, you can actually tell when it's dry because it's
Did you two just become best friends?
I think so. So yeah, 3D printing really opened a lot of doors, and again, this is all leading into what I did for Martin. So the next one is another bit of a 3D print where it's so the E-Wing pilot from Ahsoka has a base of Bodhi Rook with boots from Mix Mayfield, and the head is a modified Lando head and a helmet, whatever, another repeat legs. The vest is from a Zeb from, actually technically Mandalorian kit that I resized with that figure and the chest box and everything. The X-Wing pilot with that heavier jacket, I love that look so much, so I had to make that as well. That's Captain Marvel figure with the Jaina Solo base, you know, and her vest and her chest box repainted, and some decals, water slide decals put on for the emblems and the leather jacket. And the droid, so this is an abbreviated version of my presentation, if you can believe it. I was going to go into a whole thing about droids. I love droids so much. I make so many droids. The droid is, I work primarily with Bandai kits just because they're super easy to paint. You can paint all the pieces different colors before you assemble and put it together. And there's, again, someone's patron, of whom I'm a member, often releases different astromech. Well, the whole thing, but also the dome. I don't do the bodies because, again, I prefer the Bandai kits, but he sizes them to work with Bandai kits. So I take those domes and I paint them. And so that droid is that awesome droid from Ahsoka in the E-Wing that was styled after the vintage R2-D2 from the Kenner line, Big Eye. So that is a nice segue into the next one where we're getting a little more relevant. So here's my custom SK620 using a Bandai kit, using the dome, again from the same maker, different dome. This was ended up being a very difficult model to paint just because I think the paints I was using were very unforgiving. I tried to do some masking to do the decals and the paint just flaked off. So if I ever did one again, I would have to do it very differently. And I had inquiries about commissioning them, and I was like, I can't until I figure out how to do it so it's more durable. But it's super fun, and the next one, just because Martin wanted me to throw this in. So you recognize this as a Droid Depot droid. Chip is the name that I gave him. I imagine that Chip was probably the astromech on the Halcyon during the Clone Wars. So painted, Halcyon colors, SK colors. I love Chip.
This is a legit Droid Depot. So this is amazing. So it's not just the 6-inch 3/4.
Yeah, it's super fun.
You want to show something cool?
So here's the thing that I made for the con and for Martin. So this guy is this is a 6-inch Saja action figure. He's articulated, but not like a Black Series. He can move his arms and legs and head. I worked with an incredible 3D sculptor that goes by the Glowing Ghost. You can find him on Instagram. This came up at San Diego Comic-Con, so our schedule was tight, so I kind of picked the two that, honestly, again, that I would want in my collection. Saja was one of them. So here you have just a 3 3/4 inch next to the 6-inch. The 3 3/4 inch will join the display after the panel. And we can show the next one, which is our friend.
Wait for it.
Wraith Cole. Wraith Cole comes with, it was actually funny. So the sculptor originally gave me Wraith with sort of neutral arms, but with the blacks. And I said, my friend, is there any way he can hold the blacks? And he said, well, and he sort of gave me a little and I don't like to push because I know what the artistic process is like and how much time it takes to revise something, and I was just happy I was getting this done at all. I said, okay, no worries, I'm grateful for the glass, I get it, if you don't have time, that's fine. Later that day, he emailed me with revised arms to hold the glass, so now he's holding the glass.
This is so much better than this.
He couldn't even hold the glass with a straight arm. So we did, I had my wife hold, we have the Halcyon glass at home. I said, here, let me just hold this and let me take a picture. So that helped, actually, because his whole thing was that he was like, I really need to work from reference. So there's Wraith Cole, and on the next one we have the Wraith Cole and his mini-me, both having a cocktail. And my family shot is, so here they are. To me, this is sort of like what it kind of comes down to, is the joy of getting these characters together and seeing your creation sort of living together and starting to fill out this imaginary world. Those are my Starcruiser custom action figures.
So far.
Let's see. And if you want to look at the last slide, I threw up if you don't mind, Mark, just my Instagram. Please follow. Thank you.
We're updating to get an exhibition with the toys. It's not going to go for much longer. We really want you to be able to take a peek at some of this incredible stuff that's been shown. Again, the bridge and the Sunlight Lounge playset, only available here for 2 more hours. And this, well, I made it in then I realized I don't have time to sell it. It's just a playset accessory pack, so we're gonna figure out if there's a way for me to get it out there tonight sometime during the gala. We'll see, we'll figure that piece out. But everyone, thank you for your love for toys. Thank you for loving
I'll also be hanging out in the exhibition hall after this, so if you want to meet me and talk about my work, I'd be happy to talk to you guys.
We're Toys R Us kids.